Shaka said, off topic, but I recently discovered the world of old school revival D&D games coming out. Some of them remind me of old punk rock zine culture. Morkberg is an amazing looking one. Let me see. A doom metal album of a game, a spike flail to the face, light on rules, heavy on everything else. Oh goodness. I love that pen and paper games have had such a revival. Blender. OJ says, I have a throwback question for EQ tools. Would you place terrain and stuff like tents, druid rings in the same 3D model editor? I honestly don't remember how the environment artist did it, but I could have sworn that everything was put into the file and then baked. As a designer, pretty much all of that stuff came to me ready to go. If I didn't like something, I'd make a note and then the artist would change it. All right, so if I click on this. I see what you guys did to air quotes fix this tent, but it doesn't look right. There's got to be a better solution than that. The tint, Ollie, I don't know if it's intentional, but this double layer here, instead of the like single plane, it's two. Double-sided materials are much more expensive. But, so is there a way, I mean, expense is relative. Is it really that impactful on the game? And if it is there a better way to do it than this? Because is it a matter of like just snapping these like verts together or something? I don't know. All right, so to separate, go into edit mode, select the area you wish to separate, then press P, click selection, P, selection. Ooh, I think I did it. And they're fine as they are. That's gonna bug me forever, Ollie. Unless you just don't see it when you're in the engine. Welcome to 3D art. Welcome to fixing 3D art. Oh, you don't see it in the engine? Okay. All right, well, so this seems pretty straightforward, this whole process of separating these objects out. Then we can talk about how we get them into Unreal as a, I'm going to just keep saying Unreal apparently, Unity as an asset. Sorry, Unity. I swear I'm not cheating on you. Yeah, it's worth blaming DCUO. Even though every time I say Unreal, I'm sure Nick is going, see? I told you. We should have used Unreal. Then you would at least be getting it right, Shawn. Control L to select the full object. I was just selecting these around here to change them. Hey, Sakaj. All right, so if you said Control L. Wow, that's so much better. Thank you, Ollie. And then it's just P selection. Well, that saves a bunch of time. That almost makes up for this. Okay. I was Sakash, that's about the best intro emote. It's very endearing. 2 layers of tarp, smart builder cubes. Yeah. It's how the heat passes through. It winds up sucking the cool air in. All right. So we got a little flat box. We got a square box. I guess in theory I can make a box that looks like a treasure chest. We've got a barrel. Should probably texture these a little bit better. I just kind of put wood on them. We need wall piece. So add cube. Did it put it at wherever I just happen to have the origin point? So I guess I should probably put the origin point here. Or that's what this is, right? Yeah, wow. Look at me figuring stuff out. Except for how to move the camera. Is the city wall going to get some statues at some point? Maybe. Well, we're going to rely on the concept artist for that stuff. You need the skeleton of a gnome who is camping there. Poor skeleton. I mean gnome. Alright, so. Oh, interesting. It's got these materials because that was the object that I had selected when I made the new object. Is that correct? Ancient sea monster skeleton coming out of sand. Maybe not right here. Maybe in the next zone down. Alright, so we have a wooden wall. That's the starting point. I love this whole Control L thing, Ollie. Thank you so much. I will try to remember it now forever. So I picture we could have a piece, like we can make 2 segments. I know, Ollie, you've already made some wall segments, so maybe yeah, it'll be a good learning experience for me either way. Maybe you have some standards I should be keeping in mind when we're making wall segments. Dalconis, good evening. Do you have any advice, Ali, for the wall segments, or should I just go with kind of do it by feel? You normally stick to unit, say maybe 10 by 10 by 2. So modularity means standard sizing, but Dalconis, you can ask what project in is. Sure. If I hit in, we can adjust the sizing. All right. I'll look at it and see then if it's so this is view. Rotation, location. So I guess it's this transform. Item tab, yep. Oh, it's Jeremy. What's up, dude? We never hooked up. So, Jeremy, since you were on... By the way, folks, if you've watched the VODs here, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. If you've watched the spot, all the VODs, then you probably know Jeremy from his VOD. If not, check out the VODs. Check out Jeremy's appearance on the stream. It was pretty badass. Go into object mode. All right, I'll do that. Item, dimensions. Is it really that big? There's no way it's that big. So, Jeremy, since you were on the stream, we've been having that theoretical, like, what would we like to see in a video game discussion? Yeah, the scale's a bit off. Control A. I think it's because it's not... I think this needs to be separated from this is the problem. All right, now let's look at it. Object mode. Oh, it's still kind of jacked. All right. All right. When you get back from your burrito, then I will actually ramble. 7 by 7 by 2. 10 to 10. Oh, that's right. I did. What in the world, Bunny? Someone makes a nuke and drops it in front of you. Alright, so now we have this piece. Oh. Level of Detail asked, why does it seem like multiplayer netcode is a lost technology like Greet Fire? I don't know that it's lost. Ollie's been doing a pretty good job of it so far. Oh. Truly a mood for programming. It's fairly easy. It's like riding a bike, except the bike is on fire and you are on fire. Every time I push new commit to corporate branches. That's the problem with working for the man, yo. Get away from working in corporate environment. Just make everything indie. I've been outside of a company for all of 15 minutes in the last like 20 years. I'm already talking shit. All right, so this wall piece is of appropriate dimensions, I guess, but it's kind of, it feels too big. And I don't want it to feel, I don't want it to be too modular feeling, and it needs to be ruined. So array modifier is your friend. Are you talking to me, Ollie? I'm so confused right now. I just wanted to come in and pull some points around. You can ruin things after you place them? No, because we would probably need to make these objects the way they're going to look before we place them in Unreal. Because I don't think we're going to be doing any object editing in Unreal. Add an array modifier. Did I say Unreal again? Whatever. Everything's destructible with enough determination. All right, so Ali, what did I just do other than add another one of these? Change number? But are we building a modular thing or a long wall? Now I'm confused. All right. I did, Jasmine. Yep, there you go. Okay. So you So I guess my question is, do you do this just so that you can see the piece, but then when you export the wall segment, is it going to be a single piece? Or are we making different length segments for export for use in Unity? And then the other thing would be, I guess it would be non-standardizing some of these units so that it doesn't look all standardized. Because, well, that's up to me. All right. I'm happy for you to have multiple objects, but in Blender. Night Bunny. Thank you for everything today. Standardizing these units is it's ruining my creativity, man. You don't have to put them in Unity as game objects. Well, I guess the thought was if I make them as a game object, though, in theory, anywhere we need some ruined walls, we could probably reuse them. So step one would be to think about how big do we want our walls. I think these back walls are way too big, to be honest with you. Like the city gates walls. But you know what? You know what? I'm wrong. Let's try this instead of me like complaining and moaning and shit. We'll add the array back on here. So we'll take this. I wanna put a different material on it. Which it seems like since I had this stuff targeted when I made this, that's the only materials that came with it. I guess in theory I could swap those, or in theory I would be just making a new object that when I have like the sandstone selected. Exinovo said, plot twist, the ruins you're building use part of the town that got destroyed during an invasion. That's why they built bigger walls. Something like that. Because I'd actually say that we just do a smaller layer of walls here. And then that gives you multiple layers of sort of verticality as you're approaching it. Saw a little bit of that in the concept art that was kicked over to us today. Can have like a bridge here. Basically just give us some texture, and then out here we could have more ruined walls. So was watching a really fantastic documentary earlier today. Here, I'll actually link it. And there's some great architecture that looks kind of like this in it. About the Sumerians. But the array modifier thing's actually pretty cool. So add modifier, array. It's where a lot of EQ lore is based off of is Sumerian. I wouldn't be shocked. There's some good stuff there. I'm sure we'll be riffing on like the whole Sumerian, Akkadian thing. All sorts of places. I do like, spoiler alert, if you go through that documentary, they talk about, I think it's maybe, who was it? Was it God Inky? Anyways, they get into this idea of a like people coming from the ocean, or honestly the story was a person came out of the ocean and brought knowledge of like architecture and other technology to, I forget if it was the Sumerians or the Akkadians at the time. But that really gets into a lot of like the Graham Hancock. Yeah, and so I think that's a reference to like what's known as the Anunnaki. So, okay, I have this object now, but in theory, if I click off this object, if I go into edit mode, is it individual? Is it individual faces or no? So there's that face, there's that face, and the rest is... I see what happened here. Graham was just on Rogan again. I haven't watched it yet, but he was on there with another young gentleman, a researcher that wrote a book on the impact of psychedelics on the creation of the Christian faith, I believe. So if that's the way that the array modifier works, unless I'm doing something wrong, it almost feels like I'd rather just make that object, like basically just pull this edge out. So I'll do that for now, because you guys are probably getting tired of me fumbling around here. I'll just do me. You enjoy the fumbling? Thank you, Nick. So let me see. I actually saved a picture from that documentary earlier for use here. Let me see if I can open it up without letting spilling any beans. So if you look at this is from that documentary earlier. And so they didn't have a lot of walls because they didn't have a lot of enemies early on to need the walls. But this one particular city, Urdok, was nice and defensively built up. So I could see, especially when you see like, oh man, there's so many just beautiful ass ruins in that documentary. Or Kai? Maybe. Yeah, man, I'm a huge believer in the lost civilizations like concept. I'm fully on board with Graham Hancock. I like these little tent building things that they have underneath my head, I guess. I can move it here where you can see it. Pretty clever design. All right, Jeremy. So Project N is basically there for a little while. We were talking like hypothetically what kind of game would we want to make if we were going to make a game. And so we started talking about like kind of what made classic EQ, classic WoW feel different than modern games in terms of like features they had or didn't have, etc. Play, you know, just complexity of play, how much pacing changes, etc. And so the more we talked about it, the more we started thinking or discussing it as like an actual project. And so for like the last, I'd say about month, maybe month and a half, we've actually been working on it as an actual project. So we are starting a niche MMO. So like if you look here in Unity, we've got everything I'm working on. Oh, I didn't realize that shouldn't be levitating. I could have sworn that object is built into the ground. But essentially we've got this in Unity. Up. Let me go to the right place to actually start it. Zone. Open. Project in is for project niche. Yep. Project nostalgia. Things manager. No. Network manager. Yep. Zone selection, data dunes, play. Project Noodles, also good. Project Nah, I know you didn't. Oh, is it? Oh, it's just not rendering. I was like, why didn't it appear up there? The tower up there just isn't rendering. So, Jeremy, you still around? Let's look at something in a second. Project in capsules. All right, so Unreal here. Unreal, jeez, dude. That's it. Rebuild the entire game in Unreal, please, so I can stop making that mistake. Anyway. If I go to Shaded Dunes, in theory. So if you're still here, this may look kind of familiar in sort of the approach. If I go to Spawn Manager, I can open the Spawn Editor. If I look, I turn the Spawn Editor on. We've got a visual representation in Editor of the spawn objects. Ooh, there's 11 now. Let's see where all these are. Interesting that they're here. I don't think I did that before. I guess Ali was playing around. Anyway. So if I go to two versions of the game, Blue Pill, Red Pill edition. So Jeremy, basically this is like a zone command. You may have misheard. You said you were trying to figure out what made EQ and WoW special that is missing in more modern MMOs. Yeah, that's correct. Like what's the difference? And so there's some good info. Like if you watch like basically the evolution of classic WoW, even outside the emulator community. If you look at just discussions we've been having relative to like P99 and things like that, we kind of hit on some themes, right? Some of it's pacing, some of it is some of the aspects that made the game a little bit more difficult in the past, like in a sense the strong group dependencies, harder to find a group, more social friction. Some of it's like deeply embedded changes, some of it is more superficial. So, yeah. But as somebody that's actually worked in a specific older era MMO editor, this is essentially a visual front end for these are zone commands. So we got our coordinates for spawn. We can set rotation. We associate that with an NPC. So this happened to be associated with this one, but in theory I could go back. But yeah, anyway, I'll put it back the way it was. And then it's spawn command. What do they do when they spawn? What did I take away from checking out P99? I would say that some of the quality of life stuff with regards to the camera I appreciate about like newer EQ. It was interesting not having a map easily at my disposal. That actually kind of felt a bit refreshing. Because even if I'm looking over on my other monitor at a map, I still have to like look spatially as to like what that map means. I'm still using a map as I would a map. The downtime is different. The pace is a lot slower than like the TLP. The sort of force to go back to using chat to get certain things done. That's a little bit more interesting again. So it's some of the things that we thought were quality of life improvements over time kind of killed some of the world feel. Self-destruct said, Kevin Jordan, original WoW developer, mentioned putting in intentional downtime for social interaction to really emphasize your fellow players as part of the game content. Yeah, I could agree with that. The other thing too is the crazy amount of expansion that we did over the expansion that we did to the world, as opposed to, you know, being able to kind of have that foresight, now hindsight, of looking at it and kind of going, how do we add more depth to the world and retain like the value of the cities, etc. So yeah, we got a spawn controller, spawn editor. Pretty exciting. Daycona said, I remember when Swig first released, they wanted to create that sort of downtime, so they had something like the boat feature. You had to wait in a space station to go to another planet. They wanted people sitting around chatting while they waited up to 30 minutes for the next shuttle, but players hated it, and they eventually made the shuttle available on demand. Yeah, it's weird. I wonder why the reaction was different than it had been in EQ. Because I mean, we complained about the boat ride, but it wasn't like it was that vicious of a complaint, I guess, or that serious of a complaint. Self-destruct said, I feel like you only see the negatives in things like that when you experience a more convenient or efficient alternative. Now, would that be the same for... Would that be the same for an alternative that you see in another game? What are your thoughts there? Seek and Destroy says, I think EverQuest presented itself as a living world, so doing things like that made sense and felt right. It's a big deal to cross from Butcher Block to Freeport. Yeah. But for Star Wars Galaxies, for as much as they were basically selling that concept as a like an actual sandbox world, you would think that if the experience was right, the players would appreciate it, right? Maybe? No? The OJ's question is, what was the user experience of the ship ride? I remember getting on an EQ boat and seeing scenery passing by and appreciating it. So do I. I mean, maybe it was rose-colored glasses or something. Maybe we think that now, but even the last time I was playing EQ on a TLP, I really enjoyed the experience of just like getting on the boat. Yeah. During the dial-up days, there were definitely those moments where being on a boat was a bit scarier. Jeremy said, I think the SWIG implementation just felt so contrived to manufacture the downtime, where in EQ it felt more natural. The boat ride was part of the game and its own sort of adventure, where SWIG was just a loading screen. Yep. So that gets back to OJ's question and statement. Whilst Flight Masters were pretty genius, honestly, fastish travel that also lets you take in the scenery is a sweet spot. Excuse me. Yeah, because OJ, honestly, a boat is a similar thing. It's less cinematic at times, but if we were to consider how we'd want a boat ride to feel in a new game, we could have a little more, I think, foresight, or we could leverage our hindsight. But you like in Ocean of Tears, it works out since you can run off to islands on the way. I think that part is really cool, right? The fact that it actually gives you an opportunity to treat it like a real place. The Kosh said, oh, and Swig, you're just waiting for 30 minutes for a loading screen? Yeah. It's like the Nexus travel. Oh yeah, where you were just waiting for that thing to pulse and send you up again. even there, I wonder if it was more like visually appealing and you didn't have to do it as frequently, if it would matter, right? Like, so if your utilization of the spires to go to the Nexus was something that you probably did maybe once a week. Now, let's not get started on whether or not we would want people that far from starting cities for that long or whatever. But let's just assume that's cool. If that also turned out to just be a really spectacular moment, then it may make up for it. But if I remember correctly, as Bootly is saying, even that wasn't that bad. Self-destruct says, I actually don't think features from one MMO has influenced my opinion in a negative way towards another. There's too much involved. You're almost not able to compare different MMOs, apples to apples. And Jeremy then said, PlanetSide had something similar where you kept your base, you had to hack it, and then wait like 10 minutes or something for the hack to complete. You had to defend the hack point with your buddies. It was downtime, but there was also tension. Had lots of great conversations during that wait. Also, the flights on the way in, what were the dropships called? Were they just called dropships? The ones that look like C-130s? The Galaxies. Parts. Okay. Yeah. So, that flying in is cool. Hell, man. Just like riding in forever on like an A&T or whatever. Yeah. I am not redeemed as Leo's surname within reason. So now we have 2 people that need to give me a surname next time I'm in EQ. You're behind Hashpipe. Don't worry, I have 2 characters. You're Swedish, you love cues. Wonderful. Oh man. He's gonna be like, that is not the optimal way to do this. 'Cause I don't even know that these walls are the same thickness, to be honest. Project in, yay or nay on corpses? Yay on corpses until we discuss it and decide against it. That's just my vote. You guys vote however you feel fit. Redeemed duel. First redeeming this in Project N. All right. Just keep track of that one. May take us a little while. Corpses, yes. If there's still a way to recover your things after decay, a la Shadow Rest. What do you mean by Shadow Rest? Enlighten me, Keeps. Zone they added to recover lost corpses. And then not asked, do rogues or similar go invisible in EQ? Yes. Those of you that know this program or similar, what's the easiest way for me to duplicate like a section of this? Excuse me. Is the music too quiet for you guys? Should I turn it up? It's pretty chill at the moment. There's music. Up a tad? Okay, I'll turn it up a bit. Tupac. You'd be able to hear the music if you hadn't listened to so much loud music in your lifetime. I'm not judging, I'm just saying. I understand. I used to have a car with really big speakers. It was Tupac that used to say, "Holler if you hear me." Oh no, what? Holler if you see me? And he was saying holler. I can't hear anymore. My ears are really bad. It was hear me, right? Holler if you hear me? Thank you, Tupac. So, yeah. Figured Master P would be bigger for saying that. Tupac and Project In confirmed. Yeah. Soundtrack. Original soundtrack. Faction leader. Ooh. Delightful. This music's just too chill is the problem, guys. I'm sorry. It's got like, all sorts of like forest sounds and things like that in it. Really great, but it's turned down so low. So let me pick something slightly different and get our energy levels going. Dark Vampire Castle from the same folks. You definitely play if you could rock a Tupac skin. Oh, why does it do this again? Well, we might be able to look up like some old Tupac photos and use them to model some of our human models. You might even endorse it. Thank you, Tupac. Like I said, Ollie's gonna come back. He's gonna be like, what did you do? This is so crooked. It's so weird. Blunt Test, thank you for the follow. Blunt Test is your name? Oh, I guess it's Bluntest. I read it as Blunt Test for some reason. It must have been the Blunt earlier. Can we have wild dogs in Project N called Danger Mutts Extreme? Bluntest, like greatest? No, I get it now. For some reason, I was thinking Blunt Test, like you like to test blunts. That's what went through my head. That's where I was thinking. My brain was just stuck in that you were a professional blunt tester. I'm not even bullshitting. I get, yeah, it was probably all of the, we were discussing Tupac for so long. Exynovos gave out a tier 1 community sub to Morphinite. Thank you for your generosity. It is greatly appreciated. Jeremy, you're very welcome. Yeah, let's definitely catch up. I hope your burrito was good. What do we want to do here? It's delicious. They're tough to find in Massachusetts. That seems weird in this day and age. But I believe you. I got spoiled after we were in San Diego, and then Austin's not bad. We'll just do this. We'll just do this way. But yeah, see you soon, Jeremy. Hedge maze vibe going on in the front. We got a much too narrow door vibe going in front. It's interesting that it thinks it's still connected. So object mode, G. Cool. Why is that face still there? Cool. Hmm. Oh. So I'm thinking that the wall blocks line of sight in a way. Yeah, so that's better, right? You can still see the gates if we had torches up there or whatever. It wouldn't completely destroy that. It wouldn't destroy that sort of like view on the way in. gives it a little bit more sort of variety up front without completely blocking it off, if that makes sense. And then what I'd do is this, and we'll do it real quick just to kind of show it. Grab this object. Oops. The concept artist, she had an interesting note earlier as well with regards to elevation. And essentially, if the elevation was higher, as you're approaching the city, if the elevation is higher and then you sort of descend towards the city, you'd be able to get more peaks over the wall, which then would give you a nice mix of different silhouettes. So you could see some of the buildings, like the rooftops and things like that, in the actual harbor. All right, so let's try something here and see if it's worthwhile. Take this thing and we'll start just cutting it up a bit. No, we want it to loop. Honestly, don't know if that's the best way to do it, but Bootly. Why Illuminati? It's just pyramid. Okay. I realized one of the things that might be better about me just doing geo work whenever I'm not on stream is I notice I get really quiet. I just like start vibing in. Leaving you guys with basically the music to listen to. Sorry about that. Usually I'm a bit of a chatterbox. This may wind up like the aqueduct. I may come in and just delete all this later. We'll see. None of this really looks extreme enough, though. So if we were to come back here and put some like little broken wall bits near that, would that look a little bit more authentic? I don't mean like real authentic. I mean authentic to the sort of classic games that we're paying homage to. Which side would they be on? Inside or outside? Both. Oh, the wall bits? Oh, good question. Oh, need a face there. I would say the only wall bits that you would probably still have, well, maybe inside. I was thinking they might have been cleaned up already if they're inside. But you could have like some wall bits and stuff all crumbled on the outside and then claw marks and things on the inside of the wall. Implying something good did not happen. The outer layer, it'll be like minimally guarded. So this would be like the area where the tents and things are. The hard horizontal line of the building in the background and outer wall feels too perfect, especially when they're unbroken and matching. crumbling the outer wall and maybe adding variety for the higher edge may help. You mean this thing? OJ? Yeah, so this is basically completely untouched except for when I extruded these faces to make like a backdrop. I didn't really at the time realize that I was building something that we were going to be analyzing in any real way. It was just like, let me just throw this thing in the background real quick so there's something there. Like, I had no idea that, honestly, I had no idea that we'd actually be using this zone. This was meant as just a me learning Blender test. And it's just kind of gotten out of hand. It's slowly getting more and more out of hand. So, yeah, I want to come in here and actually rethink this a bit. Setting up the small wall the way you are will be a good way to indicate how big, how the big wall could look too. Ex Novus, what do you mean? Oh no, don't worry, I don't take it as a criticism. OJ. Yeah, I don't, now that we've got this thing, I've got to think through what we actually want to do with it. First of all, I do think it needs to be a little bit smaller for what it is. It was fine as like a big backdrop piece. But now this is, I mean, this is pretty gnarly. I would expect something this major to be deeper in the city. Referencing OJ with the difference of the walls could help you have a mini reference as well. Oh, you mean just use this to sort of get ideas for what to potentially do back there? It sucks because my keyboard keeps returning to English from Swedish. Which actually changes some of my key combinations here. Something as simple as walls can help you decide how the rest of the section of the city looks. Yeah, how you want to layer it. Let the walls tell a story kind of deal. No, that makes sense. You're not being confusing at all. Especially since there's probably more thought now going into this area than there was there. And then what I was actually thinking was like right here, if there's a path that goes through here and maybe like just a little flat bridge thing that goes over this bit of water that will be here, then there could be some really crumbly walls out here, right? So similar, but it's just like wall chunks, a little bit here and there strewn about. And so then there's the piece of the wall be completely laying on side instead of upright. I would do that in this layer, maybe. In this foreground layer here. But I'm open for suggestions. Showtime HD. This is Robot. This is Yawn from Monster Hunter server, by the way. Howdy. I've gotten, I don't know what's happened to my morning routine. Usually I hop in and I was watching Mike play there. Intend to put water across here. There's going to be a little bit of water coming down from here. Water, 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 water. Water, water, water. I gotta make this look a little less janky as well. Yawn, thank you for the follow. I said yawn. I meant yog. I've also been calling this Unreal instead of Unity all night. And I'm also out of Fisherman's Friends. What? Nope. Almost out. Are you feeling any better, Keebs? So, Yog, what I am working on, that's good to hear, man. That's scary business. Matter of fact, if I hit save here, I wonder if we'll see it yet in Unity. So I'm using Blender and Unity. I think it's just normal cold. Yeah, man, it's blue season or cold season. So I've been waiting for mine to kick in. Anytime the weather gets damp like this, I wind up having some lung issues. I don't know what it is, man. Never had great lungs. So basically I'm using Blender, which is, what would you describe that as? Because it's more than just like a 3D art editor. Yeah, so you know Blender. So I'm using Blender to make this basically, which is then imported into Unity. And then thanks to some Ali magic. Yeah, so made the terrain and then started, oops. Let me actually go to the right scene. That still may not do it. I think I click on it, yeah. So I started by just trying to learn how to model terrain. And then we started just adding to it. Started getting a little bit crazier here. So now Ali has got, I think Ali and Shaka have been working on getting a spawn editor. So these things are not just placed in Unity, they're placed in a way where our server recognizes it. So we've got client server set up already. The ability to place spawns. So if this is human height, my capsule is human height. The wall's still pretty significant. That means these are just beast walls out here. I may just redo this whole back area, to be honest with you. I may shrink this wall down as well then. I'm going to give a little sneaky path over here. Yep, and thinner. Make them like EQ walls a little bit more. You think the height's good though? Huh. But they are definitely too thick. Yeah, I'm sort of... I think there's just something about... So thinner for sure. I'm not worried if they eventually need to worry about people jumping on stuff they shouldn't. Is this just a template zone, making it a full game? So this is really just meant as like a play around, learn the tools, have somewhere to spawn our stuff, blah, 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 template zone. But while we're in here, might as well have fun with it. Hard to exploit line of sight with thinner walls. Interesting point. I guess it gives you one less angle. All right, so this has been fun either way. What I'll do is I'll think about it a little bit tomorrow and probably come in here and clean some of this stuff up. But we'll see. But I do think the walls need to be thinner. Yeah, basically this is meant to be a prototype area that allows us to do things like put in like roaming mob fields, little newbie area, some amount of content progression. Hello, Hidokuro. And then there's a couple zone lines for us to play with so we can show zoning. Like, I'll run all the way over here so you can see the little dungeon zone line that we have. Gives us a place to mess around with like day-night cycle, impact of day-night cycle on spawn tables, things like that. So, put in plenty of little nooks and crannies. Wanted it to be big enough to support some folks. Ollie's even talking crazy stuff like little 50-person playtest in the not too distant future, I guess, just to see how the networking holds up, etc. But yeah, way down there you can see the dungeon entrance. Is this proof of concept prototype? It is. So it's just allowing us to basically build up the tools. It's Kinster. I'm not sure you guys have even begun to discuss things like this, but coming from EQ background, have you thought about narrative? I think we are overall narrative is bad for MMOs personally, but do you guys want to focus on world building and fleshing out lore when it comes to in-game locations? Maybe dropping text hints about the world lore, anything like that? So I spent a good part of the day writing and, you know, us discussing lore, just sort of getting the world story in place. The goal is to have a shitload of lore, but really soft world building, right? Instead of having lore that's just sort of fed to you through a series of ongoing linked quests, it's more like, how do we establish a really good understanding of the deep history of the game and have a lot of stuff going on, but approach it in a way where it's very soft world building, so you kind of have to dig around and piece things together and go to Alla and other sites and try to figure out what the hell is actually going on. Player housing. It's the one thing I wish we had on EQMU. We're going to continue to discuss it. I think it's an eventuality. It's just a question of how do we do it. Like, do we use instancing? How much instancing? If not, what are the, implications? How do we situate it? We'll have to dig into, we'll have like a night where we just talk player housing soon, I think. Just for fun. Not that it's, I think, a critical need at the moment. We're getting all the basics in. Bluntest The blunt test asked, when you design MMO terrain, do you have an idea in your head where monsters, NPCs are going to be located? Yeah, and usually I do a much better job of doing it in advance. Like honestly, this has just been me riffing in the editor instead of like actually sitting down with like a whiteboard and mapping out like, all right, so what are the key points of interest? What do we expect sort of traversal to look like? How much retraversal do we expect in this area? Are there specific like mob difficulty changes that we want to consider as we're going into this? How much time do we expect players to spend in the zone? Different level ranges have different requirements. What's the level range saturation? So how do we expect this zone to be saturated? What about over time? All of that stuff. So I think there's some things that we do want to have like build your own, just because. So there are areas where we may diverge from sort of the classic early 2000 MMO approach, just because we think it will add that little extra depth and it'll be worthwhile. And it could be things like housing or areas that players restore and then run, things like that, right? It's like if you see old beat up houses and stuff, cottages in the Karanas, what if you could restore them and have them be waypoints? What if you could somehow either run the NPCs there or become, part of the like mercantile there, etc. So Kinster said, that sounds amazing, love it. I think MMOs in recent history have been lacking in explore the world to learn the world. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a lot more like, it's going to be a more of a thing that you've got to dig out and piece together. But like we want to be just crazy thorough and just interesting with the lore. Like not interesting for interesting's sake. I'm a big fan of utilization of tropes. I want it to feel like a classic sort of standard fantasy game, but there's definitely some interesting takes on it. Are you guys for sure going with a level progression system, and have you explored potential build your own class systems? My personal preference is for established classes and fairly standard progression. If you're I guess somehow capable of convincing me of a build your own system, but I mean it's going to be challenging. Low level of comfort with that as opposed to more standard classes. Bluntus asked, are you going to go over the sort of whiteboxing phase for map layout and PC locations on the stream? Yeah, in the future. I think this one has just been more like me dorking around in Blender more than anything, and then kind of seeing what happens. Usually I'm not I'm not going to sit and recommend to be like, hey, just build it in Blender and then figure it out. So yeah. Bluntus said, I'm a developer, so the creative side of MMO is interesting. But yeah, hopefully we'll actually explore more of that in depth as we move through the initial sort of proof of concept phase, and especially then when we move into actual like production, then it will get real. What's up, Bite Size? How are you doing? You just finished streaming? Kinster said, you want people to be intrigued enough to explore it on their own rather than spell out everything for them, basically? Yeah. And make a lot of guesses as to what's really going on. You ready for bed? You bigged you up in chat a little bit. Bigged you up. Thank you. If that means what I think it means, then I appreciate it. Yeah, Jasmine. Yeah, I think you would say that. American speakers, English speakers. When a house has like is it slanted ceilings or sloped ceilings? How would you say that? I never had a house that had that in the US. So I don't even know what the right term is. Plus my English is starting to get bad. Not saying any of my other languages are getting better. I'm just bad at English. Yeah. You talked about me basically. Thank you. I love it when people talk about me. That's my favorite thing for people to talk about. Other than me talking about me. Oh, if it's sloped inside, it's vaulted. Really? Vaulted? Ryle, thank you. Vaulted ceiling, I guess. I just thought vaulted meant really high. V-A-U-L-T-E-D. Like a bank vault. That you have a California friend with you now? What state am I from? Well, it's a long story. I think I'm just gonna delete this vault and start over when you guys aren't looking. I was born in Florida, but then was immediately whisked away to Panama City, Panama. Where I guess I was there long enough to... Do you get teeth by the age of 1? I was there long enough to get a tooth and then promptly knock it out of my mouth on a concrete ledge. And then I moved to Louisiana. And then I moved to Germany. And then I moved back to Florida. Then I moved back to Germany. Then I moved to Kentucky. Then I moved to Florida. Then I moved to Alabama. Then I moved to Washington, D.C. Then I moved to Alabama. Then I moved to California. And then I moved to Texas. And then I moved to Germany. And then I moved to Sweden. So yeah, that's been one hell of a ride. Ryle said you escaped Florida. Got one up on you. Are you willing to say where you're at in Florida? I've escaped Florida 3 times or 4 maybe. My parents, my mom still lives and my grandparents still live in that area of Florida. They live in like the Ocala area. It's very central. One time I lived in the Ocklawaha National Forest in a trailer when I was like 13. Thank goodness I had a computer and an internet connection. That's when I learned about BBSs. Your level is looking much better, by the way. Thank you. Your spider went well. Not a total mess. Have you animated it totally? I'm not said. I've been bouncing all over the webs. Missed a palisade being put up. That is a very fancy name for a wall. Bite size? Not animated. Ah, see, that was, there we go. But the general body composition is done. Just the finer details to go now. Right on. Animation's going to be interesting. You're about 20 minutes north of Tampa. I can't even begin to imagine what that is. "20 minutes north." I've been to Tampa a few times over the years. Mainly to go to the skate park of Tampa. Fancy name for a non-fancy type of wall. That's not a critique of your wall. I wouldn't have even thought about that being a critique until you said something. Zephyr Hills actually sounds familiar. Tupac is near Sarasota. And don't worry, this wall will not be a big piece of wood in the future. Animation means I need to study spider walking videos. Heal you now? Yeah, and there's so many varieties of spider walking too. Like tarantula is a bit different than daddy long legs. You've got your garden spiders, you've got your hoppy spiders. You got your spider that has the little flag arms, like he's flagging in an airplane or whatever. Those are very cute. Tarantulas are amazing. Having lived in Austin, Texas hill country, I'm a big fan of big old slow sloppy tarantula. This wall is a freaking mess. Trapdoor spiders, not scary at all. Dude, this thing is not. Alright. We'll get some takes on it. Not said. He's only ever animated a spider during school. Expected more spider animations in the field, but nay, I say. You just refuse to do them? Can you do that? Are you so powerful that you can just say, no, I refuse? No, no one makes spiders. Well, at least one person does. Bite Size has a spider. People are like, I really hate spiders. I guess I just haven't been as freaked out about them. I could tell you a horrific spider story if you'd like. Have we determined what type of art style we're going for? Yeah, so what we're trying to do is go for something that's, and that's why it's like good to just use so blatantly placeholder assets so you don't get confused. But go for something that's like a not overly stylized, like painted fantastic realism, if that all makes sense together. Something that looks like a old, like, why do I say like so much when I'm streaming? I don't realize that I do that. So if you look at, where do I have some of this stuff up? You know, like Larry Elmore's work? I'm sure you know Larry Elmore's work. something that's got more of that vibe. I think it's my thinking phrase. Yours tends to be I don't know, which causes confusion when you say it and then explain that you do. Yeah. So a form of like Larry Elmore meets EQ if EQ could do the art that maybe it was picturing when it was doing art back in the day, but didn't necessarily have the tools and stuff for. Kind of looks like Braum with more clothes. I never realized Braum did less clothes. I know Braum does a lot more black clothes, like everything's kind of black. Yep, old school feel with modern rendering. I think that's the new catchphrase. Old school feel with modern rendering. I think we've actually discussed that specific catchphrase a bit in the past. Okay, Braum plus color plus more covered women. Yes, Raul. So even, you know, like the textures here get closer, but it could still be a bit softer. Bite Size says, love the content as always. Shame I always in my streams when you're just going. Maybe. But 5 a.m. in Japan is time to sleep. Yes. 5 a.m. anywhere is time to sleep. Appreciate you swinging by. You'll have to update us on your spider animations. Tell us which videos you watched. "5 a.m. is time to wake up," the college says. If you're Jocko Willick, you've actually been up and working out for 30 minutes by 5 a.m. Drodak says, the irony of watching your stream while playing on an EQ emulated server. There's no irony at all. That actually seems, those things are super in line with each other. Then again, sometimes I don't get irony, so maybe that's what you mean. Shit. Don't laugh at me, Jasmine. I was born with a different brain. Well, no, it's the same brain, but oh. Updates will be on Twitter if you're interested. You see a spider without a heart attack. Have I will. What's your Twitter? Can you put it right here so I can click it and that'll be easier? Different neural patterns? Yeah, my neural patterns are a bit different. It does not allow me to get irony sometimes. Many times. Oh, I can use the hell out of irony. But I can't really get it. I'm such a smartass. The second someone's a smartass with me, either I don't get it, or I do get it and I just don't tolerate it. Or I appreciate it. But I guess those are usually the standard options. Alright, so are you guys tired of me running in a circle? Good. You haven't finished it yet, though. Well, we didn't expect that you had it finished yet. Bite size. Go to bed. 5 a.m. is you're making me tired right now just thinking about it. We'll be here. For as long as I've stared at this damn wall tonight, you've got to wonder, like, how did I actually make anything else? You're going to come back tomorrow? I'll be doing this again tomorrow, probably. Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely be streaming, but I'll be doing this. Come back and I'll just have walls everywhere. It'll be perfect. Not see you. You sleep good as well. Thanks for the follows, by the way. Really appreciate it. Of course. And there is Bite Size Channel. See you tomorrow then. Sleep good. Is this Blender? Yeah, this is Blender at the moment. You're very welcome. What we should have done, but I know Ollie is been tucking the children in. We'll have to find out. Ooh, you know what I could do? Nick, I just had a thought. And if you've seen the movie Time Bandits, whenever I'm like, ooh, I had a thought. I remember when the one bandit, I guess evil is like is piping into his head. I could have sworn that's what's going on. And he's like, I've got an idea. But he doesn't. He's actually just the voice of evil. That's what it feels like right now. What I could do, Nick, is I could play with one wall until I got it to where it just kind of feels about right. Then we can chop it up in areas that seem like decent sections for the wall. And then we'll just use those as placeable objects if we'd like. So like a lot of this other stuff doesn't even matter. Like we just need to get one series of different sections that we think are good. And then chop it up and then we'll just reuse those sections. And it'll be obvious we're reusing the sections. And then... and then we'll have them. Morales says, I've been really interested in game development for a very long time, but ended up in a corporate programming job. Well, I'm sure it pays better. But yeah, man. What you should do is save up all your corporate programming money and then become an independent developer. Time Bandits movie didn't age well, much like Ice Pirates. I'm sure Ice Pirates did not age well, but I kind of want to watch it again now. Having some wall fragments might be nice for creating ruins areas too. So if I did this properly, had I done this properly, I would have asked somebody how to cut the piece out instead of just deleting it all. Because then I would just cut the pieces out and boom, instant fragments. Does anybody know how to do that? Can you instruct me on how to do that, chat? Somebody in here, I'm sure you know how to do it. I could have sworn I watched Time Bandits not too horribly long ago, and I thought it aged kind of okay in a weird way. Oh. You just grunt, don't make that much? Fair enough. Because I think that would be the better way to do it. Alright. You're 41, so you grew up on those? I'm 45, I grew up on them too. Yeah. Let's experiment. Since no one in chat is gonna save us from me. Because if you look at like the old school MMOs, if this section is broken, you literally just see that broken section laying here in like 2 pieces. Ross says, 40, I loved them as a kid. Buckaroo Banzai, excellent movie. But I've gone back and tried to watch them with your kid. Yeah, it's hard. It's also a different day and age. I don't know if some of the stuff I watched as a kid, I don't think kids watch these days. Maybe a little too rough for them. We lived in a harder time. Kinser said, I've never been in game dev, so I'm not sure what the process is when you discuss different aspects of said game, but have you guys discussed instance content versus open world content? And if you want both or lean more towards another? My initial answer was like, we might as well factor in instancing from the onset because it's inevitable that we'll use it. But Nick has been putting forward some pretty convincing arguments, which then has me on the side of we should have the ability to do instancing just in case. But we're gonna be doing everything in our power to keep the world as open as possible and utilize instancing only when we find a very, very specific case. So we'll start doing this. We'll hit this. We'll delete it. Wow, that's so easy. Well, object mode. We'll go here. Oops. Will not move all of the objects. But we do have it selected. Yeah? Yet. We'll go add. We'll undo that. Add mesh cube here. Great. That'll actually work out better, I think. I was wondering what you meant by FT, but FTW is good. Though I grew up in a biker family, so whenever I see, it took me a long time for FTW to not mean frig the world. Kinster said, awesome, I like that. I think at this point in my life, I like the idea of instance rating because it makes more accessible and easier to coordinate. But it's amazing to run around the world and actually see people. FTE first engage, yes. FTE only benefits people that can bat phone at all hours of the day. Here's another take. This is something that we eventually landed on when we were discussing this topic. Really don't want to put too much of an emphasis on rating in the game. Shocker. Crazy. How dare we? Rather invest that time in continuing to ensure that there is interesting group content, that the world feels alive. But yeah, it's a game that we're going to be from the onset pretty upfront about the fact that stolen your hopes and dreams. I'm sorry. The thing that we've talked about is why it is you should be in school. I just got the imagery, Trodak. I should be in school. In Sweden, trust me, I get that one. So yeah, thinking about how to provide a different in-game than raiding, and a different focus than raiding, and just being very clear up front, like it's just the traditional, you have a guild, there are set targets that you go and hit regularly. Style of raiding isn't really what we're interested in focusing on with our limited resources. So it's gonna be more of there will be things to get together with lots of other people and kill, and those people can be your guild, and some of it may be more predictable than others, but it's more of an emphasis on that type of target, probably a byproduct of certain world events, etc., and less just a standard thing that you keep on rotation. And the goal really is to try to make a world that has enough air quotes life to it that you feel like there's always new stuff to sort of dig into, find, explore, changes to the established world, etc. That's why we want to do so many things on the cheap. You know, there will be things that's like the fidelity of it won't be as high because we're hoping to spend that effort in providing more lower fidelity depth, if that makes sense. And that's kind of based on looking at something like you look at Stardew Valley. It's lower fidelity in many regards, but it's got a world that, and I know this is partially just based in sort of how the core loop's designed, but it's got a world that you feel like has always got some changes and variety to it. We've been talking about this, honestly, relative to EQ since the first time we played Animal Crossing back in the day. You know, the idea of like this world that you come into and there's different characters appear and disappear depending on what's going on. You have access to certain things depending on what day it is or what's going on, blah, blah, blah. Like, we've talked about those concepts relative to EverQuest back when I was on the team. Pretty sure the game was out then. So hopefully that makes sense. Does that make sense? Thank you, Nick. If that makes sense, if you like it, press like, smash like, hit subscribe. If you don't like it, also smash like, hit subscribe. Is that only YouTube? Can I only do that on YouTube? And there are going to be some times too where it's if someone's like, yo man, I just found the optimal 4 mage, 1 enchanter, 1 cleric group composition, and we've just played your game nonstop for 2 weeks and we've maxed out the level. We're bored. What are you going to give us? I'm not going to give you anything. You just did that to yourself. I don't know what to tell you. We don't know what to tell you. Be less aggressive and ruin your game experience. I'm just kidding about that. Sorry, Phineas. Kinster says, that sounds awesome. I personally love and appreciate challenging content, but gaming is hugely social for me at this point in life. More social means progression. More social means of progression than kill boss, get pixels. Sounds fantastic. You know, it'll be a slower grind, but the idea is that you have a place that, hey, I know where I'm going to be showing up for the next 3 years while I try to get to level 50. Things like that. It's about building something that has a sense of progression, but is really more of a place than, you know, a place for you to. We're not an esport. Bunny before bed linked me an article to, I guess, Classic WoW is becoming an esport. I haven't read it yet because I've been hanging out with y'all. Classic WoW Fall Conquest EQ qualifier. Huh. I don't even know what that means. Like, this shouldn't be a sport. This should be a place that you love and want to hang out in. And after playing some of these games for like 21 years, I think we can see that maybe there's value in making it a place that you can hang out in for 20 years, not just be the best at, you know. There's more to the game than posting dragon kills on your website and shit talking. There will be fantastic, dangerous creatures. It's just not built around this constant raid logging treadmill game. Yeah. And there will just fantastic creatures, terrors from beyond the stars, unimaginable horror, things that are powerful, things that you know, things that are essentially everything you'd expect from a raid mob. But I just don't know that we're looking to set it up to just be like a raid rotation style setup. All right, so I think this is about roughly it. A little bit smaller, a little bit thinner. I think that'll be fine. Oops. I'll get this set up for tomorrow. Archaeology would be a good use of time. Yeah, yep. Especially in a game where there's layer upon layer of fallen civilizations. I think that would be... It's an interesting one for us to sort of think through and think about what that actually means or how it presents itself. Nick says, I would want some raid events that feel like old school EQ raids, where it was this huge thing you planned. It was risky. It's more few and far between than a game mode. Yeah. Making those moments more special. Yeah, and really putting the burden on us to figure out a way to make that possible. Because even if our memory of the moment that Nick just described is like through some rose-tinted glasses, we're remembering something that maybe didn't feel that way, though. I mean, honestly, the idea of like going on a raid when I was in my little roleplay guild was so massive. I was like, oh my god, I would love to be able to do that one day. But anyway, even if it is like this weird sort of rose-tinted view on the past, that at least gives us an image to aspire to. It gives us something that we can now go, all right, so how do we create that sense? And I really think that's one of the benefits of not trying to stray too far from the original formula. Look at what we believe to be the original formula, and then apply 20 years of hindsight to that, and then have the, I guess, the willingness to go, let's apply the belief that this game can be around for 10 or 20 years. All right, so how do we then extrapolate out like progression? How do we think about persistence in a different way than we did when I was first on the team? Because we didn't know how long the game was going to last. We were thinking it could go back, or it could go away like in a year or 2 years or whatever. And so there was never really that thought of this thing's going to, you know, obviously be something that we're playing in 2020. So yeah, it'll be interesting. And if we're full of shit, or if we've got crazy ideas, or if the ideas just don't work and we have to change, if you keep hanging out, you'll see that in real time. We'll be honest about it, right? This is a very open development process. You're seeing me fiddle around with tools behind the scenes. You're seeing stuff come online as, you know, Ali and Shaka and Nick are playing with things. Over time, we'll figure out the best way to introduce you to what lore we want you to know about, while knowing what lore you'll have to find on your own. So we'll be here. And if shit gets hard, you'll see it, because we'll be talking about it. Rolly said, I came from Ashron's Call, and I agree with raids being risky, but so satisfying when you can complete it. Also, it encourages community building, helping each other and stuff like that. Yeah. Kinster said, I like how mechanically intensive a lot of modern raid encounters feeling. Wow, that's where I got the satisfaction from. Me and 19 people mastering the mechanics of a fight enough to beat it. I love EQ for what it is, but honest to God, gameplay is dull. Middle ground would be cool. Middle ground in some areas will be cool, but I'll be honest with you, we'll err on the side of dull in many things. Just being upfront, and intentionally so. You know, because what we want to make sure we do is, again, focus on that sense of place more than skill, so that we also don't create core mechanics that then a broad group of people maybe aren't able to get, or aren't comfortable to get, aren't comfortable understanding. And I would say on our end, if we shoot a little bit dull in certain areas, I also think that once players start beating on it, they'll find ways to increase that. Not to challenge. Players have interesting ways of bringing skill back into play, I guess is a better way to say it. So naturally, there'll be a higher skill requirement than whatever we initially thought there would be. Just as people learn how to min-max certain things, or just take the optimal path. But the addition of like mechanics to things like raids was something we were super in favor of back in the day, especially when we first started getting scripting. I don't think I used scripting for like the Sauron event in Plains. Probably, maybe didn't. But even that was just meant to sort of get people to move around more, right? And eventually, I guess it leads to things that look like the safety dance or whatever. Tech TV said, I super like the idea of world events as raids. Not doing the same dragon over and over every week to get more loot. I'd love to randomly have a week-long or a couple days long event where giants are invading, attacking a town, you have to defend it. Something bad happens that incentivizes people to put groups together and fight them. Perhaps award loot via killing the giants, or via points token system for killing a certain amount of giants. Yeah, those are the types of things that I think we really want to explore and do more of. We know it's been done a little bit in other games, but I think that sort of thing would be fun. Phineas said mechanics in WoW are kind of we/e now that there's, help me understand. Now there's add-on that tells you before it happens. whatever. Okay, thank you. Deadly boss mods. Man, that's kind of been around forever too, right? It's just, it was interesting. I was watching EQ raids last month, and yeah, everything, it was just, you basically were just being told sort of step by step what to do. Step into fire, step out of fire, move under mob, move under mob. Rangers, do blah. And my thing is, I'm not trying to be critical of that or make fun of it. I honestly believe that's, some people enjoy that, and it is their right to enjoy it. I'm amped that they have a thing that they enjoy, but I think it's also really important to be clear about what you are or aren't not as a product. Are not as a product. And for us, we're just not that. Phineas says, missed some of the discovery behind boss fights. Not sure that can even exist with how the internet is now. Yeah. It's, and maybe this is naivete or whatever. Like, I still haven't finished Link's Awakening. That's mainly just because I don't spend enough time playing. But it's extremely rare when I'm playing a game like that. I would say even certain things, and coming back to EQ or whatever, it's, I don't like proactively look to ruin my experience. It's just only if there's certain things I really can't figure out, then I'll pop on, I'll look it up, cool, and then I'll go back to just running around doing stupid stuff and enjoying myself. So who knows, if we create an environment that's really meant more for that than min-maxing and overachieving your way into not having anything else to do, then we'll see. And that really comes down to also being clear about like the target audience. And that comes down to even, is our target audience necessarily a group of people that are going to try to go balls to the wall to complete everything, min-max everything, be max level, blah, blah, blah. To some degree, that's always a bit, it's inevitable that people want to continue to progress and move forward. But I do think it's fair if we were to say, hey, we're really kind of building this world for a group of people that want to come in, play for a bit, make some social bonds, be able to, you know, show off here and there and show that they got some cool stuff and be elite, sure. But mainly enjoy their time in this kind of shared environment with the people that they've met, exploring, blah, blah, blah. Flip. Thank you for the follow. Yeah, we're emphasizing a few things that aim to increase replayability of game without in-game rating, Nick said. Raid leading is an enormous chore without add-ons like DVM. Tax said, I lead a raid guild on Agnar. That was enough raid leading for me. Even something as simple as yelling to run in, run out every 12 seconds for like 8 minutes while your guild struggle busts through Nagafin. If everyone has GNet with appropriate triggers, you just don't have to worry about that stuff. And again, like I said, I'm not faulting people for wanting to complete those raids or for using the tools available to make it possible to complete those raids. Not faulting, not mocking, just saying that's not the game we'd prefer to make. 8 minutes of 12-second repetitive actions. Phineas said, I think the systems in Arcade did a good job of making the world feel alive without the need to rush rating or anything. Arcade had many other flaws though, but world-wise it was amazing. One day soon we'll have to talk some more about what you found to be like the best elements there. I'd be curious. Kinster said Gina with appropriate triggers is essentially what DBM is for WoW, and honestly does trivialize a lot of content. Mechanical skill still matters, but it makes every fight more when you follow warnings and instructions. Who was it we were talking? Was it with Karraker? Prathen? I forget who we were talking to. And those of you that are new, what I'm referencing is we've got about 40 hours worth of developer interview VODs. If you go to that collection, you can catch up. It's like 18, 20 different sessions of people coming and talking about EverQuest, MMO development. A few folks have been at Blizzard for a while, you know, so they touch on a little bit of their experience there as well. And so, yeah, I could have sworn we talked to somebody that was just, you know, talking about raid design and modern EQ and some of the things that they've had to do to keep it from creating situations where it's like one person not being able to follow instruction completely wipes things, etc. Cool. So what I'll do tomorrow is I'll come back in here. I'll use this initial little bit of work as a reference and see if I can create a modular system based off of just some broken up pieces. And so it'll probably be a section that is just a repeatable chunk that's just fine, and then a couple broken piece chunks that we can put in there. So, and then at some point I need to think about what we actually want to do with this back area here, and probably make some more props, bridges, that kind of stuff. Twitch Dog said, Prathen has been in a lot of raid discussion with EQ players. I remember the Guild Summit and Gates of Discord and subsequent designer-player relationship being established temporarily after. Gates is brutal. Was brutal on player retention. Yeah, I remember that summit as well. So, because I wasn't on the team for Gates. A few of us had just been pulled off the team right before Gates, and then I came back. My arrival to the team was actually announced to the team in front of some folks at the Guild Summit. Smed was like, oh yeah, Shawn's coming back to work on Omens of War. It was, there's a look of shock that I was like, oh, I don't know. Hopefully that's not a bad thing. Sorry, guys. But I think both Prathen, probably Akil, maybe Barker, talk a little bit about the difficulty in Gates when they're here. Twitch Talk said, I don't know how the responsibilities were distributed, but we got to call him to watch a few raid events that seemed off in real time. Imagine other servers and guilds were doing similarly with Rashir, etc. Yeah. And honestly, most times that was just kind of general practice to go in and watch live guilds do things, get a feel for it. Cool. Tomorrow morning, I'll probably put headphones on and see what I can do with this stuff. Yeah, Twitch Dog. As I mentioned in the VODs, there's just a lot of stuff that, because of various technical issues, etc., that just didn't get done, that needed to be done for, what's this? That needed to be done for gates that eventually got hammered out during the Omens time frame. Kinser said, honestly, I think the best middle ground is to have more combat, is to have combat itself be interactive, alleviate the mechanical intensity of the fight itself, and instead put it on the player themselves. Could be done with things like DPS rotation, immunity phases that require something to be done to break them, etc. Yeah, even that can be, you know, that can lead to a similar outcome, but I think I get what you're implying. I don't know. We'll see. We're going to play with it. We'll see if we can figure out something new on that front. Twitch Dog said I'll be going through and watching them. Right on. Yeah, there's plenty there. All right, y'all. It is 10:30 my time. I'm getting a bit sleepy. You're probably tired of looking at the same wall for quite a while. We'll see what it... I'll talk to Ali a little bit as well and see if there's a good way to make this like a modular setup. Not necessarily my forte. And maybe we'll sit down and break out an asset list and start modeling some things like palm trees and other things, blah, blah, blah. Tonight has been all about the blah, blah, blah. I'm having fun writing some lore stuff and getting some other pieces in the background. So there'll be more of that, but we're not really ready to share that yet. Yeah, Sikash, one wall down, 10,000 more to go. We just need another 80 zones. Everybody, thank you very much. If you're interested in getting some project in info, we'll be sending out something to the mailing list in the not too distant future. Kicking that process off. May even set up like a little placeholder site to send you to. We'll see. I'll follow up with you, Nick, and I don't think anybody else is on, Ali, etc. on the website idea. We'll see. Good night, Arizil. Sakash, thank you. I'll hit you up on Discord right after this, Nick, actually. Thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for your patience with my wall tonight. I think that's pretty much the only thing I did all night was touching a wall. I'll see you guys tomorrow. We're going to do some more Project N stuff tomorrow, but it'll be slightly different, I think. We'll see. But I will see you then. Yeah. All right, guys. Bye-bye. Here, some wave emotes. See you tomorrow.